Hi, welcome to my studio and another painting today, especially after doing the color charts on the previous videos. If you haven't watched that, go back, watch the previous videos for this color chart, because for this painting today, or multiple days, you know how I work, I'm going to be spending multiple days on this painting right here, this figure. I've blurred out the more sensitive parts of this figure, so hopefully that's okay for a lot of people and for YouTube especially. But you can't see it right now in this shot, but I have my color chart right up here above my palette so I can reference it. And it looks beautiful, but it's super wet. I can't touch it, so it's going to sit there until it dries, but I can still see it right next to my palette because for this painting, I'm going to be using that color chart for it. And just as a reminder, the colors that I used to this was Titanium White by Winton, or Winsor Newton Winton. So the student brand, Yellow Ochre, Winsor Newton Winton as well. And then M. Graham Transparent Red Iron Oxide. And then M. Graham Phthalo Blue. Although, I say phthalo, although the full word is phthalocyan. Not sure why they gave it the full phthalocyan word, but we all know it as phthalo blue, so I'm going to just keep calling it phthalo blue because I think that's easier to say. Now, if you notice on this painting, it looks a little bit more red when I look at it on the monitor, but the photo itself, there's a very cool light hitting the model. The background is very cool, a grayish blue, and this fabric here is closer to a cool red, like a bluish red, like a alizarin crimson. The transparent red iron oxide is a warm blue. It's closer to oranges and like a cadmium red and things like that. So I know right away that I cannot reach that exact kind of color. I'm not going to get something that looks like an alizarin. Even the mixtures of these two together with a little bit of blue, if I reference chart. Yeah, when I reference my chart, I can get something kind of close to it, but not that really amazing alizarin type color. So, like with all limited palettes, there are limitations. Maybe that's kind of obvious. There are limitations, and palettes aren't always about trying to match every single color perfectly. Even all of the paints in the world, you're not going to match nature exactly, for the most part. I mean, you can't match the sun. It's too bright, even for titanium white, things like that. But when you limit yourself, when you have a limited palette, you work within those constraints. And it's more about your translation, your thought, your ideas, your brain affecting the imagery before it goes on to your painting. And that's what I love. I want more of me in this painting than just the photo. I'm all about that translation, that idea of more of me. And with a limited palette, you have to choose. You have to use a lot of you within that. So there is going to be some color adjustment, but the very first thing before we even get into these amazing colors is I need to do the drawing for it. We are working with a figure. I want to get that as close as I can, especially the gesture of this figure here. That's what I like a lot. And this kind of hidden hand, which is amazing. It's just kind of coming out of the back. And I love the gesture of this fabric. But for the most part, this painting is going to be all about using the color chart that we just created. It's super important. It's right up there. I'm going to be using it a lot, referencing a lot. If you've made the color chart, paint along with me. If you made any color chart, that would be amazing. Okay, I'm going to time lapse this and get to it. I'll see you on the other side. Okay. All right, now I'm back. I just realized while I was doing the drawing that I only have so much time to work on this today. Man, I wish I could get to the painting, but you know, life really comes in. And the one thing I like doing with these videos, I tried moving away from it, but I really like the daily practice and really giving you guys an understanding of like what's happening in my life, not specifically, but you know, days like this when I would love to continue painting on this, but you know, it's going to have to wait till tomorrow for the next session. I just got so much to do today. I've already spent about an hour and 20 minutes setting this up, getting the paper cut, setting up my composition, setting up my palette, and drawing this out. It probably took me about 30 to 45 minutes to draw this out. And that's one thing I want to talk about right now for this. Like, this stage is really, really important, not just for this in particular painting, but in general for you as an artist, or for us as artists, not just you, but for us. Drawing. The thing that I see continually when I'm in galleries, I have some artwork in galleries. I go to galleries, I look at artwork, I look at things like that. The big separation between a amateur artist and a more professional artist, especially when we're talking about representational painting, naturalism, especially figurative work, the big separator is draftsmanship. And I think it's so important to go to the pencil, the charcoal, the implement that will allow you to draw out your composition at the beginning of every single painting, because we're practicing that aspect of our art making. We are exercising that muscle, and the continual exercise of that muscle is super important. But you don't have to put down the art that you want to do and then go through a drawing course for months or years and then come back to painting. No, I think one of the nicest things about this process is that every single painting, I start with a drawing, and the focus, the tremendous focus is the copying. It is trying to get this figure in the exact placement, the right proportions, everything, the idea of the shadow separation from the light, everything down here in the places that I want it. I think that's so, so important. And I continually see its importance throughout everything that we as artists do. It doesn't have to be just figure, landscape painting, urban landscapes, any representational thing, still life, the paintings that I feel, and this is subjective, are better in some way, have better drawing. And so always exercising that muscle and practicing it, I think, is super, super important. You could start a painting by drawing it out with a brush, but there's two caveats to that. Number one, it's a bit different. Brushes, unless you use like a very thin liner brush or something like that, it's different. It is very different. Of course, you're still working on drawing specifically, and even when you're painting, you are drawing as well, but just in big swaths of color. There's always placement of that paint. But the other thing that's a problem with drawing out in paint is normally you have to use some type of medium, especially solvent. That actually works the best. I've been doing a lot of testing. I haven't been using solvent. I don't use solvent at all, but talking with other artists and giving a class, one of the things that I wanted to be challenged on was this non-solvent way of painting. And one of the students that came by, a professional artist, absolutely amazing. She was amazing. She's definitely an amazing artist. Had her way of doing things, and it was all about that expressive mark making at the beginning with a brush. And we tried several different mediums, the non-solvent mediums, things like that, and it just could not match with paint mixed with solvent and drawing, and then putting paint right on top of that within the same session, like 10-15 minutes later. Solvent is the best for that if you want to paint or draw with a brush. This is why I draw with a pencil, with graphite or charcoal, to remove myself away from having to use solvent. But however you decide to do it, it's totally up to you, solvent or not. graphite or not. The drawing phase at the beginning of every painting is really, really important. I do smaller paintings so that I can finish them a little bit faster than bigger paintings. You know, these would take anywhere between 3 and 7 hours to complete, maybe 2 to 3 days max on each of these paintings. And in some cases, if I'm doing like 5x8, really small paintings, I can finish one a day. And what that allows me to do is get to drawing every day, every other day, always drawing a figure, always drawing. And then you add in, I'm running a life drawing session here where I live in Colorado. And that is just so important. So I can't really express enough of how important this drawing aspect is. We think that we can get away with it because we are painters and we can just use a brush. We don't have to worry about exact drawing and just move through a painting. But you'll find that eventually you'll come back to it. You'll find that that structure that you need at the beginning, even though you obliterate it with paint for the most part, that structure will help the entirety of the painting. It's kind of like trying to build a house on a foundation that's completely cracking and wobbly and everything like this. The house is not going to really stay up. The drawing aspect of painting is super, super, super important. So however you decide to do your painting process, I would urge you to do drawing in the beginning. And I think I could probably talk for another hour about that, but I'm not, because yeah, you got things to do and I have things to do. So thank you so much for watching this video. We'll start painting tomorrow or in the next video. And I'll see you then. Have a great day.